We talked about them last week in Phoenix when we did our With the First Pick podcast show from the Super Bowl, which was sort of fun. And the deck was sort of stacked in the favor of the Chiefs having more rookies that contributed. But it wasn't like the Eagles didn't have a couple guys, obviously starting with Jordan Davis, their first-round pick. Reed Blankenship, the undrafted free agent, made a huge impact over the course of the season once injuries hit them. And Grant Calcaterra was really the only offensive player that contributed as a rookie for the Eagles. You said you watched every single snap of every single rookie in the Super Bowl because, that's how you roll. Tell me this. Who stood out most to you from that rookie class? I'm going to guess it was on the Chiefs side of the ball.
Yeah, because the Chiefs side made all the plays, and they had that rookie class got better and better as they went through the season, and they seemed to peak at the right time. And then all of them made plays in the Super Bowl. But Isiah Pacheco is the one that really stuck out to me because he was a late round, 7th-round pick. Everybody knew he could run fast, but he didn't have the holes to run through at Rutgers like he's having right now. What you saw in that game is not only that he is a violent runner, but he has excellent speed. And once he hits a crease, he'll make one cut. Now, he's not going to be a guy that dances and makes you miss. He'll make a cut, and then he explodes off that cut and gets it upfield. And then when people come and start to contact him, he lowers his shoulder, and he's always getting 3 or 4 extra yards after contact. He had the touchdown run, the 1-yard run there. He caught the ball a few times, but for the most part, when you watched him, when he hit that seam, especially in this game, he was amped up, and I thought he played one of his best games of the year on the biggest stage of the year.
23rd selection in the 7th round. So, former general manager, let me ask, how does Isiah Pacheco last that long? You mentioned his speed. He hit a crazy time at the combine. He looked smaller at Rutgers, but maybe that's just because I don't know. Maybe he's put on some pounds. I don't think he's put on a lot of weight. I went back and checked. His weight was, I think, 215-ish at the combine. How does that guy slip that far and then have that sort of success?
I think everybody knew the speed, but everybody didn't see, and it was hard to see on the Rutgers tape, how natural he is as a runner. Now, Rutgers didn't have a lot of holes for him to hit through, and he's not a guy that's going to create a lot on his own. How he creates and how he becomes productive is when he has a small crease, and Kansas City Chiefs offensive line did a phenomenal job in that Super Bowl, and they opened up some creases for him, and you've seen that all year. If he gets a crease and can get to the second level, that's where his speed and his ability to run through tackles, he's a violent runner, and he was amped up that game and made a lot of big plays for Kansas City.
Let's go to the other side of the ball because also amped up and making a lot of big plays. Leo Chenal, one of the last players taken in round 3. I thought he had a good season. All those guys on defense played a ton of snaps. There were 6 guys, rookies, that played over 200 snaps, I believe. What'd you see from Leo Chenal in the big game?
Yeah, he did a great job versus the run. There was a play that early in the game where he closed from the backside, shot through a gap. He's a very solid wrap-up tackler. His forte is going forward and playing the run. I don't think he's great, and he's not in a lot of nickel situations. But in this game, he played fast. He has sideline-to-sideline range. He runs through contact when he's tackling people. Very instinctive, and he did a great job, which you don't see a lot of these college kids do, but they learn it when they get to the NFL, is what we call heavy hands, or using his hands to shed and separate off the offensive lineman. And he's very instinctive once he gets that initial separation to burst and locate the ball. And you see that consistently through this game.
So let's go to the very first player that was drafted last year by the Chiefs, 21st overall, Trent McDuffie. He was in the right place for that A.J. Brown touchdown. Juan Thornhill, the safety, was a little late getting over. Great throw by Jalen Hurts, even better catch by A.J. Brown. That's what you want to be there. He lost the ball as he was turning his head around, but he made some plays later on. What did you see from Trent McDuffie?
Yeah, the thing that really surprised me is how good a tackler he is. Now, he missed a tackle, the big tackle, that he missed a couple tackles, but the very first play of the game, the Philadelphia Eagles bounced it out to the Philadelphia Eagles right side, and he looked like he was shot out of a cannon from the nickel position. He came great angle and just lit up the running back. I think it was Gainwell. I can't remember who the running. And when he hit him, he jarred the ball loose. Now it rolled out of bounds. But that, to me, set the tone of the game on that violent hit. And I said, oh, these boys are coming here ready to play today because of the hitting. And when you're sitting there watching it live, and we were up in the press box, but you can hear the hits and how they were flying around. And I think McDuffie did a great job setting the tone right off the bat. And the only real negative play I seen, I wish you would have found and locate that ball, but it was a great throw and great catch by Hurst and A.J. Brown. The safety, I thought, should have helped over the top. But other than that, he was very good in coverage. I didn't think he was going to be as aggressive in run support as he has shown since he's came back from that injury, and seems to getting more and more confident in open field tackling, being able to break down in space, and then just running through the contact as he closes to the running back.
It's funny. I think I'll check real quick, but I'm pretty sure that he ran 4.55 or so.
No, he was a little faster than that. I think he was in the 4.4s at the combine.
I'll double check, but I think the takeaway is that sometimes what they run in shorts and t-shirt on the turf at whatever they call them, the RCA Dome. Now I can remember the name of the new place. Doesn't necessarily translate to on the field. So it
goes both ways on that, Ryan.
Okay,
it's some guys that don't run fast at the combine but play a lot faster, and then you see guys that just fly on that 40-yard dash at the combine but play a lot slower. So I think in McDuffie's case, he wasn't a 4.3 guy. He sure plays like he has that type of range, but because he's so instinctive, there's no hesitation in what he's seeing, and that makes him play faster.
I think you might be knowing what you're talking about here. Debo says 4.44, so you were right. I'm
just guessing, just like you are, because though my guesses are a lot closer to right than yours.
Yeah, which has been a recurring theme these past few weeks. Let's talk about one more player on the Kansas City side, and then we'll go to the Eagles side of a player that I have in mind. But George Karlaftis, the 30th overall, the second first-round pick, who had a really good, quietly solid season. There's a lot of slipping going on both sides, especially by the edge rushers. Did Karlaftis, how did he look to you in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, no, he kind of came on towards the end of the season. I think 7 of his 8 sacks were from week 10 on. But he didn't have he had some pressure on the quarterback, but where he showed up was in the run game. He's another guy that's really came on as far as being able to stand up tight ends, being able to play through offensive tackles. And the one thing that makes him such a good player, even though he may not be that freak type athlete, he just plays with his motor running hot every play and always pursuing, always fighting, always chasing the ball, chasing the quarterback. And you can win with guys like that.
We're going to talk about Lucas Van Ness later in the show, and I think there's some similarities in terms of guys who are relatively inexperienced. And as you mentioned, they may not be refined as players, but the power and the upside are there, and you expect them to only get better. Speaking of power and upside, we talked about him last week or maybe the week before when we were in Alabama at the Senior Bowl. Jordan Davis came out with a ton of accolades and a ton of expectations, and you said during the regular season those expectations weren't consistently met. He played just 10 snaps in the Super Bowl. What'd you see from him, the 13th overall pick in last year's draft for the Eagles?
Well, this is a little bit of the opposite of what we were just talking about. He was maybe the freakiest of freak athletes for his size at the combine last year, and everybody will, put so much value sometimes into the combine. But when I watched him play, and I even watched him in this game, he has a tendency he can anchor and hold the point, but he's not consistent getting off the ball. He's not consistent locating the ball. He had one quarterback hit, but the Mahomes was forced up into the pocket, and he kind of reacted and had a hit on him before he let the ball go. But for the most part, I just wish he played, and we just talked about how Karlaftis plays with such a high motor and so much energy. I just wish I'd seen that more out of Davis.
Well, let me ask you one more question about that then, because you mentioned when you're 6'6" or 6'7" or whatever Jordan measured at, how can you struggle to find the football?
Well, again, there's athletic ability, then there's football player instincts. And just because you're a great athlete doesn't mean and I'm not saying he's not instinctive, because he did make some plays at Georgia and he was a good player at Georgia, but he just looked a little bit slower in reading and reacting to some of the other guys on the Kansas City side and the way they played. So I think that will come in time, because you can't coach what he has, the size, the strength, the athleticism, the speed. He just needs to be able to apply that when he's actually playing the game. And you see it in spurts, but he's just not as consistent yet. And I think that will come with the more play time and reps that he does get.
So we talked about this at the Senior Bowl, just because of the players that are watching. You're not of the opinion that 2 down interior defensive linemen should be first-round picks, right?
No.
So
but
Dexter,
this kid, I can see why everybody fell in love with this kid, because, and you can correct me if you're wrong, if I'm wrong, but I'm probably not. But but I'm just kidding. From your side, I think you ran in the 4.7s at 330 pounds or whatever, 340, whatever you weighed in that size. That's rare. Now the rest of it will come with time, but that's the thing that why he went there, because when you have that kind of size, that kind of length, that kind of athleticism, usually that can translate if you get with good coaching. And I think Philadelphia has excellent coaching. That will develop not only as a run defender, but I think it's going to be a pretty good as a pass rusher. And some of the stuff you've seen during the season, he's still relying on. A lot of these rookies go back to their comfort zone and don't always apply to what they're being taught, because they don't always feel comfortable using that type of technique. But eventually they do, and then that's when they really take off.
Debo confirms 4.78. You're 2 for 2. Both lucky guesses, both right on the mark. So good job there. So, okay, so listen, Jordan Davis, Dexter Lawrence, are those first round? Would you take those guys in the first round if you had a need in the middle of the defense? Is one you preferred the other? One has a few more years experience, obviously.
Yeah, and Dexter Lawrence is becoming a very good football player too. But I think, it's a big man's game, and it's a big man's game up in that front seven, both on the offensive defensive side, although the linebackers seem to be getting smaller every year, but it's still a big man's game up there. And if you feel, after you do the interviews, after you do all your research, that, hey, this kid may not be ready yet, but he's going to be a beast in 2 or 3 years from now, and you can't teach what he has, like we referred to earlier, then you have to go with him because of the upside.
Right. No, I don't think anyone thought that Jordan Davis wasn't a first-round talent. And again, one game, one season, especially a rookie season, does not a career make.